Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Okay, looks like you can hear me. I shall share in Discord. Then I should be ready. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can tweak the settings real quick before I start in earnest. There we go. That's much better. Alright. Should have everything I need. So, I think we can get started. So, welcome everybody to my first live solo drawing live stream. I've done a live draw stream before on my brother's channel, but this time I'm going to be doing it by myself. I have done solo draw streams, but they were digital by myself. This is the first one where it's by myself and traditional at the same time. Right, so as I mentioned as is the video's title, I will be drawing Solid Snake from Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid. So I'll be happy to do that, and guess I might as well talk about this while it's on here because it'll pertain to future streams. This is a comic book I am working on. I'll be drawing pages of these on stream in the future. I'll even show off the previous page here. Yeah, so here I'm gonna change the panel on this third panel on this page digitally so it can flow better, but I still like it enough to where I would include this panel in a later page. So this is what I've got here, and I'm happy with this. So this is, as he's shouting out in this panel, Masked Ranger. I am making no efforts to hide my inspirations for this character. I'm going to definitely try and tell an original story with him. I'm not going to rehash existing stories to try and reboot anything. It's just, this is my character, inspired by very familiar faces, very familiar stories, and I am going to be drawing that comic some more. But that is not the subject for tonight's stream. Tonight's stream is about Solid Snake. Excuse me. So I'm going to be using this pencil that I've always wanted to use for professional art, and I think doing a live stream is good enough for this sort of thing. Just gonna figure out the pose real quick before I actually get started. I use an app on my phone called, well, that's the maker, called Easy Pose to figure out poses at times. I try not, unless I'm going for something real specific, I try not to do something that's along the lines of tracing what I do onto the page. More like I just try to, man, I can't think. More like I just use it as intended, a reference that I can reference so that I have the idea of where everything belongs, proper length, and what that pose looks like. Hey, Hollow You Bell, glad to have you on stream. I'm glad to see you joining us, and I'm glad you got your homework done. So, I was just explaining how I use the Easy Pose app on my phone to figure out poses. And I only really trace the poses when I'm after something extremely specific, but typically I just use it to figure out my poses and just refer to that to know what certain angles looks like and how they work and stuff. So, yeah. So I'm just quickly finding a pose I can refer to real quick. It's probably, yeah, the pose in question won't be anything really spectacular. It'll just be what I need to do what I need to do. So, almost done. I just need a few more things and then the pose will be ready. Now I just need to add a gun to his hand, which shouldn't be too difficult. No. Props. Modern weapons. Nope. Okay, I'll just have to imagine the gun. Yeah. I guess sometime soon I'll have to buy the full version of Easy Pose on my phone to get access to all the different props. So here's what I got on Easy Pose. That's going to be my reference. But yeah, I'm mainly going to try and use what I've learned to get things down. Alright, so. And hello, Samuel Reyes. Glad to have you on stream as well. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, just a spoop. There. I guess I can use a ruler, yeah. Unlike my digital thing, I don't have a ruler to work with, but in real life, I have full access to a ruler. So, should definitely use it. I do have a big eraser here, so if I can just erase it so it's not as visible as I go on. Just need that quick reference. Oh, there it is. Okay, so guess this will work. Okay, just think I'll get on to the other part of this stream, which is talking about Metal Gear Solid and Solid Snake after I've got the general pose down. If I were drawing Naked Snake, then I'd probably do that. But Solid Snake, he isn't as fascinated with a cardboard box the same way his father was. Okay, so. But yeah, maybe one of these days I'll draw Naked Snake, Big Boss, and have him look at the box like it's where he's meant to be. Okay. Okay. So far, so good with this. There we go. A little lower. Okay. Luckily, I stopped with the feet there. That's where the camera image ends. Okay, now not very dynamic, but this is just practice. Well. Okay. Right? Right, I think I've got my main figure to work with down, so I should be able to just start working on that. I think next I'll bring up a reference of Solid Snake so I know what his outfit looks like. And then I will, and then I'll continue, and then I will start up a conversation on Snake. Alright, do whatever you need, Hollow. It's best to take a nap now than take a nap on the road when you're going to get your brother. So, get all the rest you need. Okay, so almost got some reference. Perfect. That'll work. Okay. Yeah. Glad you stopped by to say what's Yeah, we're glad to have you on for however long you are on. You're always welcomed. Alright. Now that I've got the main figure down, I can now get to work on making it look like someone. So, okay. So, Solid Snake. Where to begin? Most people would begin talking about him as he is in Metal Gear Solid, but me, I go farther than that, because even though the first Metal Gear Solid game was where I started, that is not where I really wanted to really inform me as to his start. Sure, the game itself explains explains his background and that it's not his first rodeo, but I wanted to know more about this game series history, and that's when I found out there was actually a game about those missions before the one in Solid. So I went back, found a way to play Metal Gear on both the MSX and the Nintendo, not on an actual MSX or Nintendo, mind you. And with the collection coming out really soon, it'll be much easier to replay those again. But I I played those games. I played all the original 2D games, even Snake's Revenge, the original second game, the now non-canonical second game. So that I enjoyed that experience, and I'm looking forward to playing those games again. But anyway, as to the topic of Solid Snake, that is that those games do provide enough information as to what Snake was like during those early days. So, mainly Snake. He was definitely fresher during those early adventures, although in the first adventure he hardly says anything, so you don't really get a full sense of just what he's like as a fresh, I don't know if recruit's the right word, but fresh as in his first official mission, which would be very tumultuous for him, especially with the revelations, which I won't bother not spoiling because of how old those games are, and thanks to meme culture, most of those revelations have been memed to being spoiled for everyone, I guess. The point is, those games are old enough for people to know about them. So, in that first mission, Operation Intrude 313, Snake is tasked to infiltrate Outer Heaven, find their missing Grey Fox, and destroy the ultimate weapon, Metal Gear. Pretty straightforward. So, very little fuss and about, just how you do it. It's just, your mission, infiltration, find our guy, destroy weapon. That's about it. One of the things that surprised me in both Solid 1 and the original, in both Solid 1, that's definitely carried over from the original games, is, unlike a lot of other video games, the Metal Gear series, for the most part, they don't follow the same stage structure as other games. Like, the entire game takes place in one location being Outer Heaven, as is the first game. Shadow Moses in the first Solid game. Gotta open my phone back up. That's where the reference is. Okay, there I am. Alright, so the entire game takes place there. It's not like beat the boss, stage clear, go on to the next mission to fight, to retrieve this, destroy that. It's all in Outer Heaven and Shadow Moses and the other locations that the other games take place in. There are some exceptions, but more so. But I'll talk about those as they become relevant, whether this stream or another stream. In that first game, it's pretty simple, although unique for its time in that it's a stealth game. It's not run around, shoot everyone like in Contra or similar games. You need to sneak around, try not to get spotted, and kill only when you need to, in order to avoid detection. And of course there's the boss fights. The boss fights are always memorable. So it's like if you try and go guns blazing, you're gonna get yourself killed, especially in those older installments. In the newer installments, they make it possible to do the guns blazing approach, but in those older games it wasn't really an option. There were parts of the games where you had to in some regard, do the guns blazing approach, but even then, it wasn't quite the way other games handled it. Okay. Man, I can't think clearly, so... It was definite... The old games, which carried over in the solid games, was definitely a unique experience in that regard. You definitely had to go in with a different mindset when playing those games. These days it's standard since a lot of other games have followed that formula, but back then it's just you had to accept if you're playing a Metal Gear game, then you can't carry over your skills from other games of a similar genre to that one. You had to embrace stealth mode in a way that you really don't do in other old games. And so, as the game goes on, you fight through the bosses. You do find Grey Fox, who tells you just what Metal Gear is and what it entails, which is a nuclear-equipped walking battle tank. So, essentially a giant robot that shoots nukes. Yeah. And they very much intend to either launch it or hold the world to ransom with the threat of launching it. Regardless, the world needs that weapon gone. And you do have the usual, like, over the radio later codec allies. Yeah, it's like the biggest one being Big Boss is your commanding officer, and he's the main one who orders you around and tells you about certain details of the enemy base outer heaven. So there's definitely plenty going on, but as my brother has mentioned on his channel in the past, you definitely had to use your imagination more to really imagine just how that situation played out and just how Snake coped with the whole situation. But my brother and I have very effective imaginations. So I definitely was able to have fun with the whole thing. Especially with the foreknowledge I had of Metal Gear Solid. I was able to use that to inform he's going to end up here, so imagine his point A to point B. Which definitely helped me in that regard. Since it wasn't my first Metal Gear game, it definitely helped with my imagination. Yeah, exactly. It did feel more like reading a book. Which, incidentally, it did have a book in the Nintendo Worlds of Powers, which you can find a fan reading of on YouTube. I've listened to the Metal Gear one. It's quite interesting. You can tell they definitely didn't consult Hideo Kojima about the story. Because there are so many things different and non-canon about that book. It's a fun listen. I definitely would have liked to have seen that version of Metal Gear play out in its own continuity. But I am very happy with the series we got. Yep, games today feels more like movies, that is for sure. Not that we hate movies. Yeah, on my gaming channel, I definitely play those kinds of games. So Final Fantasy XIV being the biggest example. Although that one feels like a combination of reading a book and watching a movie, so that one is unique as far as modern games go in that regard. So, yeah. But yeah, both have their merits, but using your imaginations for playing games the way older games made you do is definitely becoming a dying art, and one I'm glad I haven't let die in myself. Yeah, even in Fate Grand Order, which I'll be streaming on my gaming channel after this stream, I use a lot of my imagination with that game. I mean, a whole lot more than I'm sure other people who use their imagination with it do. Yeah. Yeah, unique at least from most of what we play. That is true. We haven't gotten I'm getting ready to start the first expansion. Samuel's getting ready to start the second no, he has started the second expansion only just last week, the week before, very recently. So we have no idea how the later expansions handle the story. Do they go full on movie feel, or do they maintain their movie/book feel, and if so, to what degree? So I'm looking forward to seeing how the storytelling in that game progresses as I play it more. Yes, it was last week he started Stormblood, which is the name of the expansion, of the second expansion. Yeah, I own the up to the Stormblood content, so when I get near the end of playing through that content, I'm going to need to buy the rest of the expansions. But as of right now, that is not needed. Yeah. Snake is not a skinny man. He's not like bulky or Schwarzenegger large, but he is definitely not thin. So I need to keep that in mind when drawing him. Anyway, back onto the topic of Metal Gear. It's like, as you play, there is definitely some Hideo Kojima level storytelling going on in that game, because as you get near the end of the game, Big Boss starts giving you strange orders, like when you finally get to the last building in Outer Heaven, while you're, depending on which version, while you're avoiding a barrage of gunfire from the guys at the entrance, in either case, Big Boss will call you and tell you to get in a specific car, but doing that will get you to practically the earliest point in the game as far as location's concerned, and you're like, what the heck? And you'll either keep trusting Big Boss and do that until you go mad, or you'll realize something's wrong with this situation and ignore Big Boss's order and proceed into the base. Yes, both the NES one, there is no barrage of gunfire outside the last level, but in the MSX version, there is a barrage of gunfire at the outside of the first game. But yes, I am talking about the NES one and the original MSX one. So, anyway, after you decide to ignore that order when you realize following it's going to get you nowhere, you're inside and he calls you again, and he tells you to go to the room to your left. And he says, and so, yeah, you go to the room, and it's a pit trap. You're dead. End of story. Game over. And you can continually do that, thinking maybe you can get around before the pit trap goes. Even though you can clearly see you're trapped in there. There's nowhere to go except back the way you came if you're quick enough. And then you realize this is just like the previous order. This order is... There's not something wrong about this order. Your knees are down a little low. Okay, I actually put them lower because I thought they were higher, but thanks for telling me. I'll raise them up. You can tell me if that's higher or not. Okay, so... Yeah, so you have to ignore that order again. You figure out how to proceed. But then, as you get to the lowest floor, assuming you didn't go... Oh yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad the knees are well placed now. I'll just lightly erase these so I don't confuse them. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh yes, so assuming you didn't release the hostage in the room directly at the bottom of the elevator shaft, you will who gives the big reveal. You continue down the hall towards where they're keeping Metal Gear, and you get one last phone call from Big Boss, and this is where there is no doubt he's trying to stop you from completing your mission, because he gives you the famous turn the game console off command, which was brought up again in the second Metal Gear Solid game, where he tells you the mission is over. In the NES version, I think he just tells you to abort the mission and go home, which you have no idea how to do. But in the original MSX version, he straight up tells you to turn your MSX console off now. And in later ports of that version, it's changed for whatever console it's ported on. So I think even on the current PC version, it tells you to turn your computer off. So it's like, yeah, turn the game console off now. The mission is over. It's like, yeah, no way. Wouldn't surprise me if some people actually did turn said console off. But most people would not turn their console off and would just keep going. And after getting through some traps, you're face to face with Metal Gear, or the supercomputer that controls Metal Gear in the NES version. In the MSX version, you have to plant the bombs in a certain order on its legs while avoiding death rays from the security cameras. And regardless, destroy Metal Gear, supercomputer, whatever version you're on, you will start the escape sequence where you come face to face with Big Boss. And he reveals that essentially you were never supposed to succeed in your mission. You were supposed to fail, and as a result of failing, send back false information to the outside world. But Snake was too good, and he ended up succeeding spectacularly. And the final battle ensues between your commanding officer, who has been secretly your enemy, and you, the main character, Solid Snake. Victory, escape, explosions, done. But when Solid Snake reports over the radio that the mission is over, you get a sense, especially if you look at the wording and use your imagination, that the whole experience had an effect on him. He's not going to be the same as he was before that mission. Which just shows that even in minimalistic storytelling, like in that first game, it did present enough of a story to show that the character went through something. He experienced something, and that experience is gonna live with him. So, yeah, and there is something to learn about persevering from Solid Snake even in that early game that most people typically gloss over when playing through the series. Unless they're the true diehards, and I've seen a lot of the true diehards on YouTube. But I'm sure most casuals tend to ignore the MSX and NES games. And, man, I'm trying to remember what I was saying. Yeah, I'll recall as I get a drink real quick. Oh yeah, so that... Yeah, it was a testament to the storytelling that those old games could pull off. That even in those early games, well, even though it saved the bulk of the major story elements for the end, you could still find a good story to be had in that game, even with its minimalistic story approach. Oh yeah, I remember now. Solid Snake, and how even in that early game with its minimalistic story approach, you got a sense of his character. It's like by deciding to ignore the orders of his commanding officer, which he very quickly learns are like crap orders, and it's like is only going to hinder his mission, if not outright make him fail, which we know they would. He realizes that for the sake of the world and his mission, he can't be one of those soldiers who just follows orders. He has to decide, am I going to follow orders? Am I going to keep going in that truck that takes me to the beginning? Am I going to uselessly go into that room that's going to kill me? Am I going to turn the game console off and quit? Or am I going to abort the mission and go home? It's like, no, he doesn't do that. He decides that stopping this weapon that can shoot nukes from wherever, is more important than following his commanding officer's orders. And by doing so, he saved the world. It's like he understands that he was mature enough to understand that there were some orders that aren't worth following. And by understanding that, he saved the world. And he saved millions, if not billions, of lives. So, just from that first game alone, it gives me everything I need to respect Solid Snake and see him as a true hero. He may... Excuse me. You learn as you play through the games, he may not see himself as a hero, he may even scoff at the idea of him being a hero, but you know what they say about actions being louder than words. It's like his actions will only ever reveal him as being a hero, despite the fact he didn't like what he does, and doing what he does makes him feel like anything but a hero. I need to move this finger over some. Yeah, he was also willing to accept potential consequences if they had been genuine orders. Yeah, that is true. It's like he could have been seriously court-martialed if those orders came from a good place, and the big boss really didn't mean any harm by them, and he was really trying to help Snake in his mission. But he accepted all the consequences that came from disobeying orders. It's like, I'd have to really look into the lore to really see just what he faced afterwards. Well, he had presumably killed his commanding officer at that point, so you could say that he avoided consequences by doing that. But we know Roy Campbell eventually took over command of Foxhound after the Outer Heaven incident, so he would have become Snake's commanding officer at that point. And based on their relationship in the Solid games, and from what little you can infer in the second game, Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, it's safe to assume that Roy Campbell probably didn't court-martial Solid Snake for his decisions. So it's pretty safe to assume that Snake didn't get punished. But the fact is, Snake didn't know he wasn't going to get punished. As far as he knew, he could have been court-martialed right up to the big reveal. Though you get that reveal sooner if you save a certain hostage at a certain point. But regardless, there was potential consequences that had to be considered. And when it came down to it, he knew what the right thing to do was. And throughout all the games, no matter how he sees himself, Snake has only ever proven himself to be a true hero. And even as he became a mentor figure to Raiden in the second game, he shows a different side of heroism in that you don't have to be the center of attention, because aside from the tanker mission at the start of the game, he was not the main character in that game. He took on a mentor role in that game. And even seeing your Solid Snake from that angle, seeing how even though he might have been frustrated with Raiden for some parts of the game, in the end he cared more about helping Raiden succeed in stopping the new Metal Gear from launching its nukes and helping Raiden keep the world safe, and even deciding to be a diversion while Raiden himself went to go face the Metal Gears. So he was an example of how a hero doesn't have to always be the one to take down the big bad. He can be the guy who allows another person to take down the big bad or bring down the super weapon when the time comes. I know when the second game first came out, it got a lot of flack for bait and switching and making Raiden the main character instead of Snake, because it's always been Snake up since the original MSX game. But time has been very kind to the second game. People see it in a whole new light. Between just how the internet's evolved and the game's commentary on the internet, and Metal Gear Rising Revengeance turning Raiden into one of the greatest memes of all time, people definitely have gone back to that game and realized that their hate for that game was misplaced, and see Solid Snake's place in that game as in a whole new light, and seeing that he wasn't mistreated at all. It was just getting to see Snake in a way we never saw him before. And it worked too. He showed that he can be a good guide to others on how to be a real hero and how to really put the well-being of others versus orders, because Raiden was in a similar position of orders versus the right thing to do. But for different reasons, of course. And in the end, between Snake's counsel and Snake's and Otacon's counsel, and just knowing what following orders would have truly meant for the mission. It would have definitely been a whole can of worms if he had just decided to disregard Snake entirely and just did what everything that his order givers were giving him. Yeah, I could spoil the second game too, but I feel like that game's spoilers are worth experiencing a lot more than the original ones. But I do believe the original game's spoilers are just as much worth experiencing fresh as the second game's is. But the second game's revelations just hit differently, especially in hindsight. Raiden is still in a dream katana wielder. And a funny fact I'm sure most people know by now is that because of all the hate Raiden got at the time, they actually made a character in the third Metal Gear Solid game called Raidenovich Rykov, who looks exactly like Raiden. I think he was even voiced by Raiden's character. And he was an enemy in the game, very flamboyant and sadistic, I shall say. And you can either beat him up or beat him up and kill him at one point in the game. And the game makes no qualms about how that character was made in response to the Raiden hate of the time. These days, the fans just find it as just a little entertaining thing, but at the time it was definitely put in the game as a kind of as an appeasement, I guess, towards the Raiden haters. Though again, time has been very kind to Raiden. People definitely like his character a lot better now than they did back then. Okay, what else can I do with this? Hair. Yes, I can make the hair look good. There we go. Let's move the pencil up. There we go. Okay. Sure there are other Oh, yeah, I see where I'm, okay. This shoulder part here needs more defining. Okay. I'm at the point in this piece where I'm definitely refining stuff now over just bringing something into existence, I guess. So let's see if removing my hand can give this a chance to focus. Autofocus is off, so I don't know how much help that would be. I am going to send a picture of this and hopefully maybe somewhere down the road a scan of this. So, and then put it on the Discord and the community tab. So there will be a chance to really get a good look at this piece. Don't you worry. Oh, that's good. On where I'm looking at it, maybe I just need to up the quality on where I'm watching it. Yeah, it's auto set to 144, set to 120. That's much better. Yeah. Okay, yeah. It was just set to 144 on where I was at, and I had to set it to 70 to 72, so yeah, now it looks much better on where I'm monitoring it. Okay, he has these rivet parts on his shoulder pad here. It's all one suit, but it has built-in shoulder pads. Okay. He has these metal knuckle things on his glove. Yeah, I'm drawing Snake based on his appearance from Metal Gear Solid, the first Metal Gear Solid game. Technically the third official Metal Gear game, but yeah, we're just gonna keep it simple and say the first Metal Gear Solid game. I think his elbow pads have kind of a squarish shape to them. Just darken that a bit, just so I can tell it's supposed to be a darker color. Careful with watching and streaming at the same time on that old. Oh, right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely focusing more on the drawing than watching the stream on the laptop I'm streaming from. But I mainly see the image when I'm looking down to see the comments, so it's kind of not really trying to watch the comments, it just happens as I'm looking at the... Yeah, not trying to watch the stream as I'm looking at the comments. It just happens when I look at the comments. Start erasing unnecessary details. Yeah, with how long this stream's been going, I'm pretty sure I'll just be doing this. Yeah, I was planning on doing drawing another piece depending on how fast I went through this, but I definitely didn't go fast enough to do another piece tonight. Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Alright. Got it. I'll keep that in mind going forward. If anything, I'll just briefly turn it up to maximum quality just to see if it's out just long enough to see if it's streaming at the proper quality, but not keep it there in the future. Yeah, I have a Fate Grand Order stream planned for tonight. After I'm done drawing this. I'm not done yet, so it's like I want to make sure I get this. I'm satisfied with this before the Fate Grand Order stream. Ah, it's okay. I'm glad I changed the quality again then. Yeah, it should lag a little less now. Okay, anything else I can talk about when it comes to Metal Gear tonight? Or Solid Snake? Well, I can't talk about him in the fourth game because I haven't played that game yet. And I refuse to watch gameplay of it because I want to experience the end of Snake's story as a game player rather than viewing it on the internet. So I'm very glad that the first Master Collection is a Volume 1. Because that means we're going to get a Volume 2, and a Volume 2 could very well include Metal Gear Solid 4. So that is something I'm looking forward to. It's possible the fourth game may just have its own game release. Maybe a remaster. Because graphically speaking, I think that one aged the best out of the pre-Metal Gear Solid 5 games. But regardless of how they choose to release that one, I am looking forward to the chance to finally being able to play the fourth one again. That's good to hear. I'm glad it cleared back up. Okay. So, there we go. Yes. I guess I can talk about Snake in Ghost Babel, which I have played in North America and other countries that used the North American translation of the game. It was called Metal Gear Solid. Guess they wanted to let people know that it's who are more familiar with the Solid games to want to pick the game up and not be detracted by it not having Solid in the name. But most people these days refer to it as Ghost Babel, and if that one makes it into the second Master Collection, I hope they add back in the Ghost Babel name rather than just keep it Solid for the translation. Talk about boxes. Well, boxes, eh? Okay, I will talk about boxes. I'll talk about how they are in every single Metal Gear Solid game and ever. Every Metal Gear game, actually, in one form or another. In the original game, I would imagine most people who played that game without the context of the future games to go off of, it'd probably feel like, what the heck, a cardboard box. Why is a cardboard box an item in this game? It's like, what the heck? But then you equip the box and you're in the box like, this is funny. But then you soon find out that this box is very useful. Guards just ignore you while you're in the box. It's a funny addition that's never not been in a Metal Gear game. I'd have to check if it's in Snake's Revenge, the first spin-off, the original sequel, but I'm pretty sure it's in that game too. But if it's not, then that'd be the only game that doesn't have it. But yeah, the box. Not one game, well, possibly not one game, has not had the box. And it's been used for the same thing to varying degrees depending on the game. Which is to make the people you're sneaking past think you're not there. And surprisingly, thanks to game logic, it works. Though I guess in real life it can work too, but it takes a lot more brain power and planning to really use a cardboard box in real infiltration missions. But I'm no real-world special operative expert by any stretch of the imagination, so don't ask me if that's truly feasible or not. But the fact is, it's an iconic item in the series. It's a really fun item in the series. And it just wouldn't be a Metal Gear or Metal Gear Solid game without it. Except, yeah. You know what? I'm just going to quickly look up Snake's Revenge to see if the box is in that game. Because I don't want to have to keep saying maybe, except maybe this game and stuff along those lines. Okay, so. Okay. Oh, that's an incomplete list. I need a complete list. Okay, rations, truth gas, antidote, equipables. Yeah, looks like Snake's Revenge doesn't have the box. Though I guess it makes sense. It wasn't made with Hideo Kojima at the helm. And it wasn't, and the code, like the Metal Gear Solid formula wasn't really established yet. So that one gets a pass for not having the box. But because I still consider, despite its problems, I still consider Snake's Revenge a real Metal Gear game, even though it's not canon. So that one gets a free pass when it comes to the box. But aside from that, every other game in the series does not neglect the box. They all have the box. So, okay. What was that? Okay. I'll get back to the drawing now. Oh. Okay. Yeah, it's non-canon. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, but all the non-canon games after that one did have the box. It's the only game, whether canon or non-canon, to have the box. Yes. So, I am looking forward to playing Snake's Revenge when it comes out next month. When it gets re-released for the first time since it was originally released next month. Oh yeah, the multiplayer one would be Peace Walker and possibly Portable Ops. But yeah, I'd like to play Peace Walker someday. Though we are going to want to finish Metal Gear Solid 3 before we do that, because it is the canonical sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3, and it does spoil some major story points from the third game. And I know Samuel does own the third game on the PS2, so he can play that whenever, and I'll be able to play it in October when the Master Collection comes out. And I am not waiting for Delta to come out before I play the third game. I'm going to play it in its original, as close to how it originally was when it's re-released in the Master Collection. Yes. Yeah. And continuing the conversation of the box, I have watched some videos on the codec call from the third game, and in one, well, not radio call, because canonically the codec hadn't been invented yet. But in one of Snake's radio calls, the guy he calls to learn about the equipment he finds asks him, what are you doing after Snake finds the box? And he's like, I'm in a box. He's like, why are you in a box? And it's a funny conversation about how that is, I guess, kind of meta, about how he just knew he was meant to be in the box, and how he just feels like right at home in the box. And the guy's like, yeah. And Snake even goes so far as to say, you should be in the box. And it's like, man, I don't want to be in the box. Yeah, so it's quite a funny radio call in the game. I'm looking forward to experiencing it when I play the game next month. Yeah. I know there's someone on YouTube whose entire YouTube channel, for about at least 90% of the time anyway, is playing through all the Metal Gear games. And he has definitely proven that you can beat all the games in a day. It may take a huge part of the day depending on which installment you're playing, but it can be done, and I have beaten the NES version of the first game on my original gaming channel before starting the new one. I will be including that stream on the current channel later, on a playlist, that is. But yeah, that stream. But yeah, I did a stream where I beat that entire game in one day. So even I have proven that I am capable of beating Metal Gear games in a day. Even back in the day when I was younger and the first game was either the first solid game was either the newest game in the series or the second game had just come out about a year or two ago. And my life was a lot more boring back then. So video games was one of the only things I did to pass the time, and I beat the first game in a day. Yeah, at the time, my parents probably wouldn't have approved of me using my time that way, but the fact is, I beat the first Metal Gear Solid in less than a day. As a gamer, I felt very accomplished, and I look forward to repeating that accomplishment on YouTube. PS2 HDMI TV capture card and Boom Original Glory. Yes, that's right. And he forgot forgetting the old PS2 HDMI was well, hopefully you can figure those things out about your PS2. I do have my thinner PS2 if you want to use that, so you can ask to borrow that if you ever want to. Oh, my brother just ordered the 4th Metal Gear Solid game. Wow. He ordered it, I think the PS3 copy. It should be playable on our PS4, I believe. I think it's a PS4 we have. But yeah, I tried playing the Kingdom Hearts collection on that, so... And it does work. But the point is, it's going to be in this household in the very near future. I hear it is either the longest game in the series or the second longest series in the game. So that's going to be something. I am definitely looking forward to finally experiencing the end of Snake's story. So yeah, thank you. Well, I'm sure he didn't necessarily get it for me, but I'm sure talking about this was definitely a big inspiration. So thank you. But regardless of why you got it, I thank you all the same, Samuel Reyes. A big thank you to Samuel Reyes. Well, somehow, some way we can play it. Oh yeah, they also released they released a collection that is compatible with the newer systems down the road. So, yeah, that is something. Yeah, I know there was I forget what it's called, but could have been the Solid Collection. That, because yeah, the current good though. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so yeah, there. So yeah. So if you don't want to wait for Konami to re-release Solid yet again, you can get the first re-release of Solid 4 they did. The first time they tried to collect the games for or in collections. Yeah, the HD collections, I believe they were called. And Solid 4 was a part of those collections, and that one was compatible with the PS4 and 5, I believe. And it did include Solid 4. Okay. I think I'm almost done with this. I'm just going to do the best I can to accurately portray some of the finer details on this. I think the belt's darker too. Don't want the darker things to blend in too much with each other. Okay. Not much I can do. I don't know if Snake has a little piece of hair there, but I'm just going to include one and a smaller one there just in case. Yeah, I can work on the gun some. Don't know enough about guns to really do them without reference, but yeah, I think I'm okay with working how it is here. Okay, so yeah, I think this is pretty much done. I'll go ahead and sign this. I definitely need to practice signing my signature one of these days. Maybe I can have a stream where all I do is practice my signature. Because although at the moment it seems like a pipe dream to sign at conventions, it's a dream I'm willing to hold on to, that can become successful enough to where I can go to conventions, meet fans, and sign stuff for them. I'm willing to believe in a future like that. So I am willing to practice my signature for a future of that kind. Okay, I'll put the pencil down. I may or may not ink this digitally or traditionally, I do not know. But regardless, I am happy with how this piece came out. And this was a good test of my laptop's battery. This started at about 95% charge, give or take, and now it's down to 45 charge after an hour and 15 minutes. So, that will be something to keep in mind for future streams on this side. I'll definitely need to bring the cord, though at the moment it's cumbersome to unplug the cord from where it's currently situated at my mini painting station. With that in mind, I might as well talk about my next mini painting stream. Last time on my last mini painting stream, I talked about the hero's journey. I mainly referenced the simplified version, or that was in the Extreme Dungeon Mastery 2nd edition book. And knowing what I already knew about heroes, I was able to say what I felt like was some informed insight onto the matter. Whether it's an expert's insight, I cannot say, but I've had a lot of fun with that regardless. And in the same spirit, I tried to do this stream drawing this, talking about Snake's heroism as much as I could and why I liked Snake, though a lot of the stream was just was me talking about why we like the series as a whole. So I am grateful I could do that. So, alright, I got a little off topic. So my next mini painting stream, I will be painting fire details and black armor and costume details on the same salamanders I'd been working on, as well as some gold details when applicable. And I will be talking about the salamanders in particular and why they're my first 40k army and why I like them so much. And talk about how their heroics are a real inspiration in a world where heroism is a luxury at best and a commodity at worst. And how the salamanders just don't take it. I'll get more into it on that stream. I will be talking about the salamanders and their heroism when I next paint them on my next mini painting stream. So look forward to that. I'm going to be getting ready for my Fate Grand Order stream. I've got the game ready to go on my computer over there. So I'm going to be set that up after somewhere between a 5-10 minute break, just to set things up and get myself another drink and whatnot. So thank you all for watching. I really liked this. My next drawing stream, I'll either do another drawing where I'm either going to draw a salamander or something salamander inspired, maybe an original design, or I will work on the next page of this comic book here. I really want to continue making the comic book on stream, so I'm really hoping to do more of that. So thank you all again. Please catch me on the Fate Grand Order stream on my gaming channel, and I will see y'all next time. Good night, everybody. Alright, see ya on the next stream, everybody. Not good night yet.